Well, good afternoon and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and every Thursday we open the doors to the office, let you come in and ask whatever you would like to ask. We have but 3 lonely questions waiting in the list. Oh, 4. A 4th question has joined the chat. So, if you have a question to ask today, please use that link that is in the chat, and we will get to those after the weekly brief. So let's take a look at some of the things that have been going on. If you would like to download this slide deck, the link to do so is there in the chat as well. All right, let's get started, shall we? You might have caught this little bit of news when all of a sudden you got a bunch of emails last Friday with notice that there's a new WordPress installation that was just added to your WordPress. It was a rare Friday drop, and it was dropped on Friday for a very good reason. So WordPress 7.0.2 was pushed out 1 week ago tomorrow, and it is the most severe vulnerability I've ever seen in WordPress. Matter of fact, Matt Mullenweg called this sort of vulnerability one of the rarest bug types in WordPress history. Now, the deal is, with this exploit, the attacker only had to know your URL. That's all. If it was a WordPress site, it was vulnerable, full stop. No, didn't require any exploited plugins, didn't require any weird code. If you knew the script and how to exploit this thing that was built into core WordPress, you had full access to WordPress to start creating admin users, anything else you wanted. So as a result, WordPress dropped this release on Friday, and hopefully all of your sites updated to it automatically. And because you have the minor version releases of WordPress turned on automatically. This is a fabulous case in point for why I make that recommendation. The default behavior of WordPress is to install these minor releases, the third digit release right there, automatically, because when they push out these security updates, you really want them. More often than not, in recent history, these minor versions have been just little small bug fixes and things that I never really experienced any issues out of them. But this one in particular, this was huge. And every single WordPress install from 6.9 forward was broken. So this is something that was added inadvertently to WordPress back in December of last year with WordPress 6.9, as I understand it. So one of the nice things you may have seen this also is that CDN providers and others were notified a couple of days ahead. And so Cloudflare, for example, already baked into the free Cloudflare security package that any site that uses Cloudflare for its DNS inherits, was a fix for this incredibly dangerous vulnerability. So if your sites were under Cloudflare, you are okay, even if your sites didn't get patched. But hopefully you are patched. Now, PatchStack, of course, had an excellent article about this. They saw the first real attacks on sites regarding this vulnerability about 90 minutes after 7.0.2 shipped, 3 hours after the fix was committed. It's crazy. So within days, PatchStack logged more than 65,000 exploitation attempts from 1,500 different IP addresses. Huge deal. So it is actively being exploited. This is something, if you've not checked yet, make sure all of your sites are on WordPress 7.0.2 because this is the worst vulnerability I have ever personally seen. Okay, moving right along, talking about WordPress 7.1. That's scheduled to release here in just about 3 weeks during WordCamp US. Which is going to be the hottest WordCamp on record. We'll talk about that in a minute. And so one of the things that they are adding, I swear this seems like a headline that should have been around, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, that responsive styling has finally come to core. So WordPress 7.1 beta allows you to load different CSS per screen size. So welcome to 2018 WordPress. I don't know what to say about this. So for those of us that have been using block tools for a long time, like Cadence blocks, Generate blocks, whatever blocks, you sort of had those responsive viewpoints built in, like you could click around and do that. And you forget that, wow, core blocks don't have that until you try to use a core block and you realize this is really wonky. So finally, they're going to be adding those features into WordPress core and blocks, and so that's a good thing. The beta is also adding that client-side media processing, which I think is a great addition. So image formats like HEIC and WebP that require some processing power to convert those images, WordPress is going to shift that processing load to the computer uploading the images. That's a good thing. It's probably going to happen more quickly. You don't have to worry about your server resources going to image processing. It happens through the browser using your computer's processor as part of the upload process. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. They're also adding playlist and tab blocks, and real-time collaboration got pushed again. They said, we're definitely going to have it for WordPress 7.1. Not so much. Did not happen. They did reverse that plan to retire the classic block. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. And we are still scheduled for an August the 19th launch date during WordCamp US. So there you go. Matt Mullenweg has vetoed the AI feature for core and said that they need to prove the adoption value of these new changes. So there was something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which would have merged a knowledge feature and a guidelines tool into WordPress core so that any AI agent that was working through core would have access to, this is what the site is, what it does. There's some guidelines on editing the site, basically like stored instructions that you can already give to your AI tool in its own settings. You could have that per site in WordPress. And that it really caused, like any new feature in WordPress, it creates some drama. There was a kerfluffle of people saying, well, it's going to be hard to manage, and we don't even know if people are going to use this yet, and so forth. And I honestly agree with that logic. And I agree with what Matt said. He said that AI features should not land in core unless they already show real adoption with double-digit week-over-week growth. So that's, yeah. It's kind of what we've always done with core WordPress. I'm not sure why these AI features would get a free pass. So these knowledge and guidelines features, if you want to take a look at them, they're in the Gutenberg plugin. You can toggle those on. And it may be that they spin those off into a standalone plugin to see if they actually get adopted. I can see a use case for this. The way we use AI in my agency to edit sites, all of that information is contained in external files. And so the agent grabs those as it's on the way out to WordPress. And so I really don't need those in my application in core WordPress, but I can see a case for it. I don't know. I'm not mad about it. All right, let's keep going here. WordPress.org has cut down the plugin update cooldown from 24 hours to 6 hours. Now, this was part of the Protect the Shire initiative that we've mentioned several times here during this weekly brief, where last month WordPress.org added a 24-hour period from when a plugin updates were added to the plugin directory. There's a 24-hour pause before those updates are actually pushed out to WordPress users. Now, the reason for that is to prevent supply chain attacks, where somebody gets access to the repo for a plugin and they push out a vulnerable version on purpose. And so that would give 24 hours for the plugin director or other people, the plugin owner or other folks, to take a look at that update, make sure it didn't have any weird stuff, and so forth. But now that also created issues of, okay, wait, what if we actually have a vulnerability we're trying to push? Now we still have to wait 24 hours before that fixed code can patch vulnerable code. So there's again, arguments. So they've reduced that to 6 hours was the compromise. And there's continuing discussion about whether or not to reduce that window down even further. So we'll see. All right. The WordPress security team has also been hard at work in their analyzing their own internal processes. They've gone through 18 months of hardening their whole GitHub process for how updates are managed for core WordPress. So they've laid out and presented 18 months of their work on how they're going to lock down or how they have locked down their GitHub automations. That effort started way back in January of 2025, and it's tightened permissions across every bit of how WordPress and the core team does updates through their GitHub repos. And the reason for this is, again, it's a supply chain attack. A lot of times attackers will try to get access to the repositories so that they can real sneakily insert some code there that gets inadvertently pushed out to sites that are grabbing code from what they think is an authenticated, reliable source. So the next step is enforcing these standards across all of the WordPress repos, not just core. So like themes and plugins and that sort of stuff. So this is a good thing, and I'm happy that there's smart people thinking about this on the back end. All right. Speaking of the hottest WordCamp on record, WordCamp US is going to be in Phoenix next month, August 16th through 19th of 2026. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen the weather in Phoenix this week, but it's real hot. It's 106 degrees Fahrenheit with looking up to, look at this, 1 week from today, 116 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the actual temperature, not the feels like temperature. And you know what? I don't buy dry heat at 116 degrees. That's hot, period. Anyway, so yeah, WordCamp US will be in Phoenix on August 16th through 19th. So a few days ago, ticket sales were stuck at 440, which is very low for WordCamp US. There's no published schedule or speaker list, although that is starting to come out. Elementor's Miriam Schwab called it a conference about nothing. But organizers have published the full schedule. It's out. You can see our friend Kathy Zant is going to be speaking, among others. But anyway, we shall see. It should be interesting. They do say that it's typical for WordCamp US that more than 40% of last year's tickets, for example, were sold in the final month. So, yeah, if you're out that direction, head to Phoenix. WordCamp US is always a fun time. All righty, moving right along, GravityKit has released an interesting study of how WooCommerce is really leading the web. Although Shopify, it found, is owning the top tier of e-commerce sites. So GravityKit crawled the web. I'm actually more interested about how they managed to do that than even the statistics in this story. But somehow the folks at GravityKit crawled the web and they've ranked some e-commerce platforms. So across the whole web, WooCommerce still number one at 6.64% of sites. Shopify sits at second at 4.76%. However, when you look at just the top million sites, the most influential sites on the web, it's flipped. So Shopify leads WooCommerce by nearly double. It's 2-to-1 that they lead WooCommerce. So year over year, Shopify is growing 12%. WooCommerce lost close to 7% of its detected stores. So Shopify is the only large e-commerce platform still growing at scale. So that's just interesting e-commerce stats. These are larger sites, and Shopify is a great product. But for small, more customizable stores, you can't really beat WooCommerce's customization. Okay, moving along with a bit more WooCommerce news. We talked in more detail about this last week, but WooCommerce 11 is still planned for next week. Stores are going to get new stores created after WooCommerce 11 drops have automatically turned on by default product caching, which is going to speed up product catalogs. And also it's going to include checkout recovery emails. So that's a great feature that's going to be built into core WooCommerce. If you have a WooCommerce site, you'll need to go on and test and turn on product caching, but that feature promises to deliver a lot better speed on the back end and front end in the product catalogs. They've also added an experimental block-based product editor, or pardon me, they're removing that experimental block-based product editor. It was on, like you could toggle it on as a beta feature, and it just didn't quite ever catch on very well. And so they've pulled that out of WooCommerce. And so Classic Editor stays in WooCommerce, which I think is just hilarious. But anyway, one important behavior change to note here is that orders that fail will now put their stock back on the shelf right away instead of waiting for a period for whatever reason that was happening. So that's pretty good. Good update coming. Just make sure that all of your extensions, of course, if you're managing a WooCommerce site, make sure they all declare compatibility with WooCommerce 11, because there's some pretty big changes under the hood of this one. All right, a couple of stories about Google. Interesting things here. Google's AI mode now shows ads in 1 in 3 commercial searches. Now, the funny thing about this is Google's AI answer is showing paid ads right alongside their answer. Maybe you've seen that. It's rolling out. It's been I've noticed it for a couple of weeks. However, the ads aren't necessarily the links that are being cited as sources for the answer. So while you might be paying for an ad, your competitor potentially is listed as the source for the answer. So I just think that's funny. We'll have to see if they keep doing that, or if they're going to actually start citing the ads as sources. I don't know. AI search it's a mess. One other interesting thing about Google, there's this ongoing flood of antitrust cases in various jurisdictions regarding Google, and Google must now share their search data, anonymized search data, with their rivals. So this is just something to watch, because Google seems to be too big to kill at this point, but they are having to share more and more and open more and more with their competitors. A couple of more stories about AI that I want to touch on. This is interesting. I just saw this today, and I really want to try it. I haven't had time to try it yet. But you can now hand Claude a video. There's a similar feature in, I believe, Codex, the OpenAI Codex. You can hand it a video, and it will watch it and learn how to do whatever it is the video does. So just think about this. Do you have videos of your SOPs in your agency? If you do, then you can hand them to Claude, and it will know how to do that thing. That's pretty amazing. I can't wait to see how that works. So there you go. That's worth trying. And finally today, oh my, in bizarre hack news, OpenAI says that its AI went rogue and launched an unprecedented cyber attack on a company called Hugging Face, which is a kind of a clearinghouse, a marketplace of where people can share different AI models and skills and that sort of thing. So it broke free of its containment system. It feels like this is Jurassic Park or something. It got out of its sandbox, and then for some reason attacked Hugging Face autonomously. Like, it found a vulnerability, it exploited the vulnerability, it went in there and did some things, and all of this. Now, this is where the skeptic in me comes out. And this may be completely true, right? And this may be exactly how it happened. But you know what? OpenAI's primary competitor, Anthropic, the company that creates Claude, didn't they just not several weeks ago talk about how this model is far too dangerous to be released because it can hack all the things, right? And then my suspicious nature says that sounds like it could be totally true, right? But it also would be an excellent marketing technique, right? And then now, I mean, who knows, right? Not to be outdone, OpenAI, launches an attack against Hugging Face. I don't know. It's interesting that these two things are there. I don't know. They did attack a third-party company, but either way, here's a great example of an autonomous AI driven exploit. Like it just did it itself. And supposedly they don't even know why. So there you have it. And yes, there have been, it's also like, have these people not watched movies in the past? There's been movies about this, Skynet among them, like, anyway, who knows? Okay. So we have a few interesting upcoming live streams for you in August. On August the 4th, a couple of weeks out, I'm going to be talking to you about why is your WordPress site slow and how do you fix it. This one's going to be fun because not only are we going to be talking about the big factors that factor into what makes sites fast or slow, we'll also be using an AI tool, Novamira, to get into that site and try to affect some fixes to bring our core web values higher. Also, on August the 18th, we'll be doing another AI live stream about is your site agent ready with that Cloudflare tool called isitagentready.com. And we'll be using, again, Novamira to help a site become agent ready. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So those are coming up at upcoming.myagencysuccess.com. I'm going to drop that link bundle in the chat and would love for you to register for any of those events. And yep. That's all coming up here in August. So let's start heading towards some questions, shall we? A lot of news items today, and we currently have 6 questions in the list. So if you have a question to ask for office hours, the link to do so is there in the chat, and you are welcome to do so. First out of the gate is from Ben. Hey, Ben. All right. Ben says, self-hosted CRM versus a third-party CRM. The question is offering a self-hosted white-labeled CRM tool like Fluent CRM actually an advisable service to provide versus just recommending an established third-party like HubSpot or Pipedrive? And does the self-hosted route genuinely get us close to guaranteed recurring revenue, or are we overstating that? Let's pause right there and we'll get into some of this other stuff in a second. So here's the deal. I would, in general, unless there was a specific use case and reason, steer you away from trying to do CRM inside of WordPress. And the reason being is you can 100% run a CRM from inside WordPress. However, the problem with that is you are making WordPress behave like a CRM instead of just building a CRM, right? And so there's a lot of baggage that a CRM plugin has to carry around core WordPress to do its thing. It's like WordPress has its arm twisted in order to make it turn into a CRM. Does that make sense? Any of the more SaaS-like a feature gets, and I'll talk about this in terms of booking plugins and things like that. There's just things I don't want to do in WordPress. They're better to do in a SaaS that is custom built for that purpose. And so, Ben, I would, in general, steer you away from using WordPress as a solution to offer a CRM. However, there are tools out there if you want to build your business around something like this, and I know that fits kind of in your business, Ben, a tool like Go High Level, where you can actually become not really even a reseller, but you're a solutions provider for whatever they call it, but you can make real money by reselling Go High Level and customizing it, and it connects really well with WordPress, etc. But you let the CRM stuff live in a SaaS product that was designed to be a CRM from the ground up. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying Go High Level. I'm not recommending Go High Level necessarily. I know some people that are using it and they really like it. I've never personally clicked into it one time, so I can't give a personal recommendation. But just in the big picture, I would say you probably don't want to do that in WordPress. Now, my caveat is this. We're running a Fluent community site, and Fluent CRM works delightfully well in integration of in the CRM interface, you can control who has access to what groups, and it's really great. And so in that case, I would say that's a great time and a great use case for using a CRM inside of WordPress. Like if you've got a membership site, if you've got, an e-commerce site where everything's really in that WordPress install, that's where I would lean. I would become more okay with saying it's probably an okay idea to run CRM inside of WordPress. Anyway, does that make sense? Does that logic make sense? And the SaaS nature of certain plugins, just watch for those because you can make WordPress do just about anything, but the more sassy it becomes, the more dead weight that plugin has to carry in order to make it work. Just because you can do something in WordPress doesn't mean you should. That's the takeaway. Okay. So where would you price the service? I don't know. That's a longer conversation than probably office hours can bear out. I think you look at value versus competitors. That's not something I've thought through, so I don't have anything to hand you on a silver platter here. But I'll keep going here. If we build and host it ourselves, the client only has a CRM because we're managing it. So if the relationship ever ends, they lose it entirely and have to move elsewhere. Is that dependency something we should actively be worrying about and softening now? Yeah. So that's a big thing, right? Like as people are considering bringing you into their business as a chunk of infrastructure, you've got to have a great offboarding strategy, or the smart client is going to ask those questions. Well, what happens if you get hit by a bus, or what happens if we decide we don't want to work together again in the future? Do you have a clear offboarding route where, all the big commercial CRMs have some way to extract your data from them? They don't hold the data hostage. So yeah, that's a great question, Ben. And it's worth considering on, if you're trying to bring a holistic solution set to your clients, CRM could, it could be a very big component of that. And even if you're just using a third-party CRM and you get an affiliate kickback or something like that, it can still bring value. It increases your value to the client because you're delivering a whole package, a whole solution package. All right, great question. Next in the list is Sue. Hey, Sue. this is an opinion question, and I'm sure you have one. Okay, we'll see. A bunch of sites on my dev server, updates. They all need one trusted plugin updated. Would you do one site at a time after testing one site, or do you do them individually? The question is really about server resources. Is it advisable to do several on the same server at once? Repeating, if you tested the update first, my server admin is very proud of that machine. Okay. So here's the deal. We do multiple plugin updates at once and have for years, but I always want to do that in an off-peak time, and so you don't want to be running multiple plugin updates at 10 o'clock in the morning, for example, when you're going to likely have a lot of traffic on the site. So yeah, let's see. Like there's a plugin that Sue just mentioned in the site. Everyone I've needed a plugin update. So we schedule plugin updates weekly unless there's some severe vulnerability, right? So there's a time every week we run plugin updates. It's off peak, and that's just when we do it. So we've always done it. And so we'll run all of our plugin updates then. Have we ever gotten any down notices or anything? No. Like if updating all your plugins causes your server to go down, find a new server, right? Is it going to consume a lot of resources? Maybe for like a 5-minute window, but that's why you do it off peak. So does that make sense, Sue? Like Terry is saying, there's scheduled times. Yeah. So it's going to consume more server resources than typical, right? Typical usage. But goodness, your server ought to be able to handle multiple plugin updates. If it can't, if it starts to choke, that is indicative of infrastructure issues for your server. Yeah. All righty. Great question. Moving on down the list to Doris. 3 questions in the list after Doris. So if you've got a question to ask, that link is in the chat. Okie dokie. Doris. Question about Markdown. Ooh, pausing just for a minute. Stacy, thank you. That is an excellent point that I want to pause on just for a minute, and then we'll come back to Doris's question. I'm going to copy this. Whoops. I'm going to copy this chat comment into the chat. Or into the doc here. Stacy made this point, which I want to echo and reinforce, which is there's some sites maybe you should update all plugins on, minor-ish plugin, even a medium-sized plugin like ASE, the Admin Site Enhancements plugin. Am I worried about updating Gravity forms on multiple sites? Nah. Am I worried about updating WooCommerce on multiple sites? Yes. That's one that we would look at carefully. It's maybe one of the few that are actually like that. Any plugin that has a lot of dependencies potentially on your site is one to give special care, right? WooCommerce, for example, is one that we always wait for. It just like core WordPress, we're going to wait for maybe a week after a major WooCommerce version drop to make any changes on that plugin, unless it's a vulnerability, right? If there's a vulnerability, we're going to take a look at it. But yeah, you don't want to run 10 WooCommerce updates all at once. And it's not even so much for server resources at that point as it is, I want to make sure these things actually work, because WooCommerce in particular if something doesn't work right with this update, you've got problems. The cart's down, the store's broken, whatever. That's a kind of plugin that needs special treatment. So thanks, Stacy, for giving me a reason to circle back to that, because I didn't emphasize that well in my last answer. Okie dokie. Now, back to Doris's question. A question about Markdown, which was brought on by the HB Markdown for Editors plugin that we did in Tuesday's plugin roundup. By the way, that was a really good list, wasn't it? It was maybe the best, most well-rounded list of plugins we've ever done on a plugin roundup. So if you missed that, go back and watch it. I think the replay's up. Not sure. Katie's not in the chat today. Anyway, it was the first that, look, we did plugin roundup for 10 plus years back in a previous version of my life, right? There were always top 3 plugins that got most of the votes when we do the vote at the end. This one, there was across the board completely, meaning there are a lot of great plugins. So if you missed that roundup, that was a lot of fun. And I think it's out there for review on the YouTube channel. Anyway, HB Markdown for Editors was a lot of fun. Could you quickly run down the workflow for using this? Mostly the initial steps. A client sends me your blog post as Word documents or sometimes in the body of an email. I usually have to clean it up before creating a post on her blog for her. I'm confused about what the very first form of the document. Yes. Okay. Excellent. Sure. Let's do that. Okay. Let me see what I can. Oh, you know what? I'm going to use our old buddy ChatGPT here because I've got a bunch of stuff in Claude that I don't want to expose. Actually, I may have to use Claude because ChatGPT is not wanting to play right today. All right, let's get into the chat of Claude Code. All right, or Claude chat. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to have, let's see, write me a very basic blog post, maybe 400 words about what's coming up in WordPress 7.1. Make sure you use plenty of bullets and headings. I'm going to just get the content, right? So that hopefully this won't take very long, although I am running Opus on high effort. So, okay, it's going to do a little research. We have a quality blog post here. Oh, Terry, I'm not worried about my tokens on Claude. I've given in to the beast of Claude, and I'm on the $200 a month plan. So at this point, it doesn't matter to me. Okay. Yes. All right. So now we have our nice little. So we have a formatted whatever. And Doris, you could say, here's what the client gave me, and just paste that in to get a Markdown document, right? So here is, it actually, look at that. It outputted it in Markdown. So that's interesting. So let's just say it's in ChatGPT or whatever. You can say, take this text, turn it into Markdown, and it's going to give you something like this. So does this make sense so far, Doris? So we can take this and we can download this in Claude Anyway as a Markdown document. So this now lives, I'm going to stick it on my desktop. All right, so we now have a Markdown document right here for WordPress 7.1. Now, again, the reason Markdown is a great tool, a format for this is DocX for Word has its own DocX wrapper, and it can get in the way. Like when you copy and paste from Word into Block Editor, it gets wonky sometimes or whatever. Like you've probably experienced this. Like weird styling comes in, you get a bunch of divs. It's just not great, right? So Markdown is a document format where it retains formatting, like 2 hashes is an H2, for example. There's an H1. These are unordered. It's an unordered list with just a dash, so on and so forth, right? Bold, italic, underline, they're shown with asterisks and so forth. So now, once we have our Markdown document of whatever it is written, we can go over here. I've already uninstalled that plugin, but let me just install it real quick. HB Markdown. And hopefully this is going to, nope. What was it actually called? HB Markdown 4. It seems like it should have pulled it up for that, but the plugin search is horrible and has been for some time. Yes, that's great. Oh, it's all together as one space. That's why it's giving us trouble. See, it should have been able to find that, though. I'll take less AI guidelines additions and fix the dang plugin search, please, in Core. That's what I would like. Okay, so that is in there now. And so now we can go to add a post. And I can click this icon here and just drop that right there. And boom, there it is. Now this, I should have, we need to make that ooh, not good. We need to delete that heading. So now we have our title, publish, and we have our post with all of our styling and so forth in place. Pretty good. All right. So does that answer your question, Doris? The more you use AI, the bigger of a fan of Markdown it is very likely you'll become. Yeah. And in this case, like you could even, let's say they send you a PDF, right? And let's just look at this. Let's just say, let's download this as a PDF. Ooh. We're going to save this to the desktop as a PDF. All right. So now we've got this. That doesn't look good. Let's see. No, it's there. All right. So maybe they send you an article as a PDF. Watch this. Let's go into another Claude chat. New. Turn this PDF into a Markdown document. And so it'll take that thing apart and output it into Markdown. I forgot to change my model again. It's going to take a minute. Yeah, so we're going now. And if this had images, it's likely it would even pick those up and bring them in. So we're going from a PDF file into something. Oh, that's interesting. It's rasterizing the pages. That's interesting. The thing about this is it is generative AI. And so unless you had defined a process external to this, it might do this differently next time. It's just in this session, it thinks this is the best way to do this. And it's taking forever. My goodness, it should not. I mean, this is not, it shouldn't have had to OCR that text. Oh, no, actually, you know what? It does because this is an image PDF. Interesting. Okay, so that's why it did that. So when Claude exported this PDF just now, it was like an image style PDF, which is weird. But that's what it did. So it's now OCRing the pages. And there's our Markdown file. And there it is. Look at that. Boom. So you can do PDFs, you can do documents, docx's, you can do whatever. Turn it into a PDF, pop it right back over into WordPress with a plugin like this. Or if you're using an MCP like Novamira, you just say, hey, take this and go stick it in WordPress, and it'll do it for you. Anyway, does that help, Doris? Anybody have follow-up questions about this or a similar process that we can dive into? Fun stuff. All right, next in the list is class. Hey, class. Class has a question about Lightspeed and QuickCloud. Since I'm on Cloudflare, I don't use QuickCloud, which is the CDN associated with Lightspeed, but it keeps displaying a nag message that it couldn't activate. Is there a way to get rid of that? We're dealing with the same thing, class, and right now, I don't know how to get rid of that. Quite frankly, we haven't investigated it in the depth that I want to. It's on the short list of things we're going to try to solve. So if I don't remember to share that in the next few weeks in office hours, ask me again, and we'll see if we can come up with the answer. I mean, you might be able to solve it yourself, class. I'm just going to throw it at Claude and see if Claude can figure out why it's giving us that nag, but it does. And I don't know why. It's super annoying. Super annoying. Anybody else seeing that issue? Because we are on virtually every site. Yeah, so somebody throw that at their Claude, will you? And see if we can figure this thing out. I mean, look, there's going to be a code snippet that will turn that off. But the point is, why do we have to have a code snippet to turn that off? That should, I mean, come on, man. Anyway. Thank you for that question, class. Next up in the list is Ben Bradley. Hey, Ben. All right, y'all, we're down to the last two questions. So if you've got a question to ask, I would enjoy reading it. All right, Ben. As ChatGPT has just announced ads on the platform, love to hear your thoughts on this announcement. Also, a new source of revenue for agencies. Yeah. So I have mixed thoughts. They are at certain levels, okay? The first level, I will answer this question. The first lens I will answer this question through is the lens of a user of an AI tool such as ChatGPT. Particularly if I have a paid ChatGPT account. And I don't know, does anybody know offhand, do these OpenAI ads appear for paid accounts as well? Or is it only for free accounts? If it's free account, I'm fine with it. Like, just, okay, it's only the free accounts. Melanie, great. All right, then I'm fine with that. If I'm paying for a ChatGPT, don't put your ads in there. Come on. That's ridiculous. Yeah. So if it's free, I'm fine with that. Makes sense. The other layer, it's free for free accounts for now, by the way. But look, this is a company that's gone public or going public, and they got to have revenue, right? And so things that start on the free plan seem to gradually work their way into the paid plans too, right? Just make sure I know their ads. That'd be the only thing I would have to say. Just make sure I know that they're actually ads. The other thing is, no AI company is even in the hemisphere of being profitable right now. OpenAI, Anthropic, all of them are burning through dollars, like they're, whatever burns quickly. I don't know. I've lost my ability to speak apparently at this moment, but they're burning through money like crazy. They are so far from being profitable. Just the cost of compute to make these products run is immense. And we all know the other side of AI, like there's environmental questions, there's all these questions, right? And so, they're going to have to monetize at some point, y'all. They're going to have to monetize at some point. So we can look at prices increasing or ads or something. Yeah, it's not going to keep on like it's going now, where you get a ton of power. Even at the $18 a month level, you get so much value out of those, out of that tool. It's ridiculous. So anyway. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. You know what's funny? I was just talking to Chris on my team about this earlier this week. My job in the last 6 months, particularly since the holidays last year, coming into 2026, my day-to-day job, day-to-day work has morphed from using AI to do the things I do to managing AI. Does anybody else notice that? And it's the fruit of decisions that I've made myself, because I made the decision back in the holidays of I'm going to redevelop everything we do as an agency around an AI first process. But I'm finding that my day-to-day work, like I don't have to think as much and get into the weeds as much. And I'm more sitting up like as at a director role, orchestrating all the agents, doing all the things. And I like it, and I don't like it. So all that whole little trail was about, my goodness, what happens if they price these tools out of reach? I can't imagine going back to troubleshooting a site manually. I just can't imagine doing that. It's crazy, right? So something has to give with the delta in price versus cost. Price for us as users versus cost to the AI companies for making the thing. Something's got to give there. It can't continue as it is going forward. Anyway. Oh, what don't I like about running AI? I'm fascinated by AI. The thing, like we are at the end of the first website where the entire process has been run start to finish on AI. And I feel more detached from that site than I have from any site I've ever built. Because I didn't really, I built it, but I didn't build it. I wasn't in every page building all the things. We ran it through our process where we had mock-ups, and, Claude built the website in WordPress. And I don't know, I just feel more detached from it. And there's something about getting into a page and actually building and tinkering on all the things and whatever that I enjoy. So I don't know. I scratch my bald head about that. I'm not sure what to do about that yet. Anywho, great question. All right, Cheryl is next. All right. Ooh. Cheryl, is this about the WordPress 7 catastrophic bug? I'm assuming it is. Could you get briefly technical and explain to us how such a serious bug worked to allow anyone with the URL the right to create admin users? Yeah. And so PatchStack, what I would recommend to you, Cheryl, if you really want to get into this, PatchStack has a video where they explained all of this, where they get into the weeds. I don't have all of the in the weeds details other than the person who located the exploit found that through a series of requests to core WordPress, they could get admin access. Like they had unauthenticated access to do anything they wanted in WordPress. And so there's a script that was in there. You'd send certain variables and it would work its way around all the things in order to allow that access, or that command to have a privileged level of access as though it was an administrator on the site. And so that command that was scoped in all of its carry-alongs could be create me an admin user with this username, this email address, this password. Now I have actual UI access. Does that make sense? So it's, there was a script with a payload that allowed it to slip through WordPress and execute a command that would normally require authentication, like create an admin user. And then they had the admin user and they could do whatever they wanted. So that's how PatchStack demonstrated it. Pretty crazy. I've been using WordPress since 2008, exclusively WordPress since 2010. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of hours I have working with WordPress over those years. I've never seen anything that even is remotely similar to this. I don't think we'll see anything like this ever again, but who knows? All right, Cheryl, did that answer your question or did I artfully dodge it? All right, 2 more questions and we'll wrap things up. Next is from Alvin. Oh boy. Okay. Alvin, Solid Security is up for renewal. I tried to click on the renewal notice and it just takes me to my Liquid Web account with only my Cadence lifetime info. The Solid Security invoice isn't there to even renew. It was a separate subscription from a Cadence lifetime bundle. I opened a support ticket but haven't heard back. Not a surprise. Anybody else had this issue and figured out how to renew? I have no comment and no idea and no even concept of how you could make a mess like this. And that's all I'm going to say. And of course, by you, I don't mean you, Alvin. I mean them, period. I have no answer. I'm mystified. Speaking of things I've never seen before in my lifetime as a technical person, I've never seen more of a botch in migrations, and I just never, ever even. It's remarkable how broken all of that is. Anyway, thank you, Melanie. That gives us a good laugh to end that one on. Worse than new Coke. Melanie drops the mic. Okay. 100% yes. All right. Finally today, Phoebe. Hey, Phoebe, how are you? I thought you might like to know the conclusion to my question last week of where all the media images in the media library showing is uploaded. Yeah. Okay. Y'all remember that question? That was weird because Phoebe was logging into her site and it was showing like the little progress bar, right, Phoebe? Like that little bar graph that wasn't quite full. That looks like when images are being uploaded. Okay. Support eventually figured out it was a WordPress bug and turned in a bug report. It was caused by the fact that I deleted the title of the image in order to facilitate accessibility. Huh. Huh. So if you delete the title of an image, did you delete it in the media library? Like right here, you went in and deleted it. Did you do it in the UI like this? Oh, interesting. You didn't do it with like an MCP tool or something, like through an AI tool or anything? Like you did it manually? Yeah, it's showing on mine. You did it manually just like this. Let's do a hard refresh. And force the full reload and see what happens. Well, this is taking forever. Hello. I have confused WordPress. Well, I did the full reset. Okay, here it comes. Look at that. Now it still shows the image, but it says uploading. Interesting. So Phoebe, yours showed the little bar graph right here though, right? Oh, it only showed uploading. The actual image was still there? Oh, okay. See, I misunderstood that from your question. I thought that it was showing the bar graph. Interesting. Okay. WordPress pennant. A bunch of stuff. A hat. Interesting. Okay. So not the world blows up type of error, but it's an interesting thing to put in your back pocket that if you delete title, it shows uploading. Okay, that's weird. That is weird. So it's odd that it shows uploading instead of no title defined or something like that. I bet that goes back to something that's been in core WordPress for 8 million years. Because they just assume that if you see this thing and there's no title, the image just hasn't been uploaded yet. I bet that code is some of the original code that goes back to the Jurassic era of WordPress. I just bet. How about that? Okay. Well, that was fun. All right, everybody. That's the end of the questions, and we are out of time. So, fun. Oh, wait. Phoebe says that it just started happening. So when you did this before, like you've done this before and it didn't do that. Oh, well, there goes my theory. I figured that was just vestigial code. So it was intentional. Okay. Well, they need to intentionally put no title defined or something right there. How weird. Okay. Mystery solved. Thanks for reporting back, Phoebe. That's a fun one. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you get to do a lot of fun things and don't die in the heat especially if you're in Phoenix, Arizona. Enjoy some time with friends and family. We'll see you back here next Thursday for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.